Hello, and welcome to today's episode of the Power of Your Mind podcast. You're listening to episode number 205. I'm Victoria Gallagher, Law of Attraction hypnotist and number one best-selling author of Practical Law of Attraction: Align Yourself with the Manifesting Conditions and Successfully Attract Your Desires. And I'm also the founder of HipTalk.com and HypnoCloud apps, which gives you access to over 500 hypnosis recordings right in the palm of your hand. So be sure to download that app from the app stores. And I'm here with my co-host, comedy hypnotist, Jim Kellner. Hey, Jim.
Hey, Victoria. Hey, everybody out there. Good to see you.
Good to see you. I keep thinking as I'm introducing myself and my app, and one of these days it's no longer going to be called HypnoCloud. People are going to get very confused.
The app formerly known as HypnoCloud.
Formerly known as, yes. I'm changing the app name to a symbol.
Exactly.
Just kidding. But yeah, I have the name sort of like in the back of my head, but I'm not really 100% ready to share what that's going to be. And I'm sure at some point, I'll, you know, we'll be able to, if you ever type in HypnoCloud, it'll just go to the new app. So anyway, we've talked about that enough for now. Or have we?
Well, we hope. Based on your conversation last week about the developer, I don't know.
Right? I know. Yeah, that there's always don't want to say always, but if developing apps and websites and just working with people in general is taught, well, again, so much of this can always come back to the law of attraction. Because for me, on two accounts, one, I've had a lot of really negative experiences when it comes to developing my apps or websites, or hiring people to do things for me. And that's like an area of my life that I've really stumbled. Like that's where my imperfection. Just I think that I am a very clear communicator, but if anything will teach you about clear communication, that is working with other people, hiring people to do things for you. Because if I am a person of my word, and if this is true, that what you put out there is what you're getting back, then boy, working with other people really teaches you a lot about what you're putting out there. It's like you have to almost look at what you're getting back from other people, whatever you're getting back, whether it's working with people or you're in a relationship with people and you've asked them to do you a favor or do something for you or whatever. It's like you always have to study like what you're seeing come back to you, because it's like, did I really communicate? Is that what I communicated? This is what I'm communicating to people. If you're not happy with the results,
Victoria,
you got to
I'm
look at
just
your own.
wondering. We might be having a connection issue. I want to see if it's my speaker or if it's. Can you talk again?
Yeah, I'm going to pause.
Oh.
Okay. So yeah, so we were talking about communication. We got a little broken up there for a second, but we were talking about the fact that when you're not getting the result back from people, people that you hire, people that you're in any kind of relationship with, you have to really, it kind of still comes back to, you have to study your own communication, and you have to say, wow, like when you're getting results back that you weren't anticipating, I think you have to kind of take it back to yourself and say, it's not what I thought that I communicated, but that must have been what I communicated. And because we're always communicating, and when, people are just such a great way of reflecting back to us the assumptions that we make. Sometimes we make assumptions. Sometimes we make judgments, misjudgments. Sometimes we are just not clear in asking for what exactly what we want or what we need. And so the people are always reflecting back to us. And so I'm a work in progress in that area, because I think that I communicate very clearly and very well, but then evidence will show that, I don't always get back exactly what I've asked for. And I have to, it's just always an area where you got to sharpen the saw, and where you got to say, well, I gotta do better on that. Even if you think that you're putting the right thing out there. And it's the same thing with law of attraction. I mean, there's really no difference. People, law of attraction and our manifestations, it all comes to us through people. Like, people are the ones that bring our manifestations always show up through people.
That makes sense.
People
Yeah.
buy our products, people work for us, people give us money, people hire us for our services, people come into our lives as for friends or for so everything, if you really think about law of attraction, it's like clearly communicating to yourself and to other people what you desire. And you can have anything you want, but you have to clearly communicate what you want. And then you have to be willing to examine the results of your communication, and kind of realize that, like, everything really kind of comes down to clear communication. And a lot of times we're not even clearly communicating to ourselves, because we're like selling ourselves short, because we don't necessarily believe that we can have what we want. So we don't even ask, or we ask in a way that diminishes our our ability to really powerfully create what what we're going for.
I agree with that to a certain extent, but I do think there are just some jackwagons out there, because because I'll tell you, so my friend Mick has this saying. He says, if you send someone an email with 3 questions, they will answer one of them, they will poorly answer the second one, and they will ignore the third one. And I have found that to be so true so many times. I'll give you, for instance, like I had to send in a hold harmless statement for a show that I'm doing. And I sent it in along with the insurance paperwork. They write me back, could you also send the hold harmless? And I'm like, I'm looking at it and it's right there. I've had a lot of times where I think people, and I try to look at it from my own point of view. I'm sure that I miss things all the time too, but I do think that sometimes people they're reckless, they're careless, they're jackwagons.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I guess if it does happen a lot, you got to kind of go, well, what's the common denominator here?
It's very true. And it's a two-way street. So I just find that ultimately, I mean, the more we can take responsibility for our own communication, what we're putting out there, the better chance we're going to at least be able to see those situations in advance, or anticipate those situations, or be even more clear in in what we, we're always communicating something. So I do agree with you, though, that some people are just not as communicating also means listening, and it also means watching, and it means being receptive, and all of that. So yeah, I do agree, though. Occasionally there are people that, no matter how well you are communicating, they're not listening.
Well, yeah, and I think that, but what you said too is, it makes a lot of sense too. I've gotten better at anticipating what they're going to miss, right? And so being very clear. Okay, so like my performance writer is one thing. That's the thing that we send along to tell people, put up these chairs and make sure there's a microphone, these kind of things. And I can't tell you how many times people don't look at it. So then I try to put it in the email itself. I don't just attach it, and then I confirm with them a couple days before. So I think part of it is just having some insurance there, where you're kind of like, okay, I just assume that we're going to have a problem, so let's make sure I do these things to make sure that we don't have a problem.
Yeah, it's like defensive driving. It's like, but
Yeah, true. Yeah.
Defensive communicating.
Right. You just coined a new term. I love it.
I did. I did. Defensive communication. Like make sure that, you're extra, like almost like that person's not going to,
Right.
they're going to follow your instructions to the letter without making any possible assumptions or anything about what's normal.
Yeah. You know what I'd like to point out too, and this is something where I think that someone like you is maybe more successful than some other folks, because you know what? We all have problems like that. We all run into situations like that, but not everyone perseveres through it. You could have easily had a couple of problems and said, well, I just wasted a bunch of money on this app or that thing and said, forget it, I'm not going to do this anymore. And I've ran into people like that. I
Oh
I
yeah.
have another stage hypnotist that we talked about this one thing. And I was like, have you tried this? Well, I tried it once. It didn't work out. So I didn't do it anymore. And I was like, what? You didn't do it again? I mean, it's basically hiring someone to do
Yeah.
something. Well, companies have to hire many people to get what they really want. So kudos to you to not give up and keep going.
I never give up. If I let the first time that the development thing didn't work out for me get in my way, I would have quit years ago, years ago. And, it's always working out. It's just never perfect, and there's so many different lessons to learn, and it is, boy, if you want a personal growth project, you want to learn about yourself, try building an app, a revolutionary, life-changing app.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Because it will definitely, in all ways, it will just show you what you're made of. And, it's taken every ounce of tenacity to, to do this.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I believe in
That's
it,
good.
and I have a vision. And that's the thing. I think when you have a very strong vision, you just like nothing will ever stop you. And I always just think about like, because I just want to set the record straight for a lot of people out there. I mean, like, there's so many people that think that manifesting is like this overnight thing, that all of us, that you
Mm,
rub the lamp of the genie, and that
right.
or you set a 30-day or a 90-day or a 1-year goal even, and that you're gonna manifest that things. Well, some things it just takes longer. Some things, as long as you have the vision and the stick to itiveness, I love that word, then you can manifest anything. And if you look at some inventions, some things just take longer. Like the light bulb took a long time, for
Right.
Edison to figure out how to do. The airplane took a long time. The um, Model T Ford, took a long time. But, Henry Ford, he just, he kept hitting these little stumbling blocks, these little roadblocks. But I mean, these are examples of people who manifested a vision, and they never ever gave up, even though his workers told him that it can't be done. He said, it will be, and I will have it. And that's what you have to keep doing. You have to keep telling yourself, you have to keep believing. And you can't just allow these things to affect your mood or your feeling, or say, oh, well, because if you do, then it just, it wasn't really meant, that wasn't really the thing you were meant to manifest. And then maybe you're just on to something different. But
Mm.
you got to believe in your dreams. You really, really got to believe in your dreams.
Well, I mean, so one of the things that I wonder about, like, Henry Ford and famous people, rich people, I mean, do they all know about this thing, and they're all like, hey, I got to do this law of attraction thing, and that's how they got where they went? I mean,
That is such a great question, because, you know, they talk about, like, in The Secret, at the very, very beginning of The Secret, they talked about this whole idea that there were these special people, these upper echelon people that learned about this law of attraction. Just only high society people knew about, right? And that part for me, I don't quite frankly believe that, that somehow intentionally this very basic concept of, what you think about and believe, that you'll achieve. I think everybody ultimately at some level has access to that information. Maybe not everybody was taught that, as they were growing up, like they didn't have the parenting or the supportive people around them that really told them that. But I think that's no different than for how it happened for many of the rich and famous people who unknowingly were using the law of attraction. I think most people who have gotten to that place, they didn't call it law of attraction. I think law of attraction is kind of something that it's been around for since the beginning of time, but only like real deep philosophical thinkers um, were really thinking about it in those terms during those days, during those early days when people were using it. And I like to say, I'm saying use it like it's some sort of drug or some kind of trance that you can put yourself in. But the truth of the matter is that we are all technically using law of attraction all
Right.
day long, 24 hours a day on autopilot. And it's like we're all just attracting based on that. So, to me, I always kind of come back to it's all what you tell yourself and how it's what you tell yourself, it's what you feel, it's what you program your mind to believe. And so here's the other thing too, is like, how long is it supposed to take? It's the same thing as like, you probably see private clients instead. Do you also see private clients for
Yeah.
hypnosis? Yeah.
Yep.
So sometimes, when you see a private client for hypnosis, sometimes it takes a session and they're good to
Mm.
go,
Oh, that's a
and
great example.
sometimes, yeah, and sometimes it takes them, could take them months before, they see the results. Have you experienced people that,
Yeah. Yeah. And that's one of the important things we tell them, I mean, for some people, it's going to happen really quickly. Some people just takes a little bit longer. That's all.
exactly. And so some of those people, they knew that hypnosis and the power of the subconscious mind existed before they
Mhm.
came to you, but they just never really used it the right way, or used it
Intentionally. Yeah.
intentionally to to manifest their goals, or to overcome a habit, or to create a new habit, or whatever it is. Well, it's really the same thing with law of attraction. It's like it really depends on where a person is really at with whatever it is that they're wanting to manifest. Like, what's their starting point? How many limiting beliefs do they need to get through to to get to that next level? And so I believe that a lot of the people that were not, a lot of the people that became rich and successful and famous, they just they got there not necessarily knowing anything about how law of attraction works or how the subconscious mind works. They just they they just had something inside of them that kind of told them, like, keep going.
Yeah.
And some of them did know, but maybe they just didn't call it law of attraction.
Well, I think, just like, I mean, like you talk about, like, just whatever you focus on is your kind of your can be your law of attraction. I had one of my cousins. I mean, I don't know why, but for some reason, from the time he was born, it seems he wanted to be a radio DJ, and he would sit there with his little record player, and he would go, "Hello, this is me. I'm on the radio, and coming up next is Johnny Cash." He's like 5 years old doing this,
Yeah.
and what do you know? He became a DJ later.
Right.
He focused on that. He didn't at that age. He didn't know anything about law of attraction, but he was so focused on that one goal. I mean, it was almost like he couldn't not become a DJ. You know, it would be
Yeah.
harder not to become a DJ if you're living your life like that.
What's so interesting is like my life now being a, hypnotist with, hundreds, if not close to thousands of hypnosis recordings. And, when I first grew up, I had a tape recorder. My first really sought after gift that I could not
Mm,
wait to get my own tape recorder. Like I remember there was this girl down the street down the street from where I grew up. And I went to her house and she had this magical toy where you could press these buttons and you could record yourself and you could play it back. And I just thought that is something I absolutely need in my life. And
yeah.
so I could not wait to get my very first tape recorder. Then, it was like my first grade teacher, or I don't know which came first, the recorder or the first grade teacher, but the first grade teacher told me that I had this amazing voice. So I kind of
Mm,
took that to mean
nice.
that I would become a singer. And then I made this goal that I was going to be Dorothy in the Wizard of Oz. And that was like kind of my first experience really with manifesting something, was that I just told myself that I was going to be Dorothy in the Wizard of Oz in the 6th grade. And ever since, from the 1st grade till the 6th grade, I just kept rehearsing that and seeing myself, having that happen. And of course, 6th grade rolls around and I become Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz. Fast forward to like all these weird, like little experiences in my life. Like one day I had this idea that I wanted to have a mail order business. And this was way back in the day when you would send $1 self-addressed stamped envelope
Mhm.
and get, and I, um, information was just kind of starting to become a thing. So you could
Mm,
buy this information and then you could resell it.
mhm.
And so when I was about 18 years old, I started getting into that. I wanted to like
Mm,
create my own little mail order business. Now I never like really followed through on that. But if you look at ultimately what ended up happening was, I use this tape recorder, I record my voice, and I have
right.
what today is today's version of the mail order business where, people order stuff online and I send it to them. And, it's just, did I manifest that? Did I know about law of attraction? I mean, I manifested it, but at the time I didn't know anything about this word called the law of attraction. But I always sort of secretly down deep inside, I kind of knew that like, if you never give up, if you never give up, you will you will get exactly what you want. And so that was my version of it. And I think, there's a lot of other stories that of people out there that like they have that same thing where they just never gave up. Oprah Winfrey, was one of
Mhm.
those people. Oprah, a lot of people don't, realize, but, she came from very humble beginnings and, and had all kinds of childhood traumas and things like that. I mean, she came from a very poor, humble background, but she just kept, before her role in The Color Purple, she visualized herself becoming a famous actress. And um, and it didn't work out for her the very first time. She
Right.
she visualized it. A couple months later, she hadn't heard anything from the directors, and she was feeling frustrated. And here's something that's so important, that is one of the aspects of law of attraction that gets talked about very little, that I talk about very little. But so she put it out there. She did all that she could do, and then she surrendered.
Mm,
She just surrendered. And so she's basically, she had this conversation with God one day. She's like, I don't get it. I don't get it. I thought you wanted me to have this part. I want to be in this space and I want this opportunity. It's just too hard. And she just asked God to help her just to let it go. Let it go. And then just a few minutes later, right after she totally let it go, this just gives me chills thinking about it.
Mm.
She she got a call from Steven Spielberg telling her that she got the part.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So was she using law of attraction? Did she know? Did she know that all of that, that she was using law of attraction? But then she became obviously one of the most rich, I mean, she's a billionaire,
Yeah.
influential women in the world. And there's
Right.
so many amazing stories like that. I could just go on, and I probably will.
And I think we hear that from a lot of wealthy people or successful people, is that they just focus on, you think about like Warren Buffett, he reads all these financial papers every single day. I mean, how could you not move forward financially if you're surrounded by that? Right. And it's the same thing
Yes.
with negativity though, or if you're just spending all your time watching Netflix and stuff, if that's what you're focused on, you just tend to get more of it.
You know what? It's so true. I mean, like, even if you don't believe in this whole idea of law of attraction, you got to believe that what you immerse yourself in, what you focus on, is going to expand. I mean, and that's what it really kind of comes down to, is like, what are you choosing to focus on? How are you spending your days? Who are you spending your time around? And and so it's a focus, but it's also sometimes, like in Oprah's story, you can be too focused on it. And I
Mm.
have a tendency sometimes to get too focused, or need something, or want something so badly. And
Mhm.
that's where a lot of people get this whole law of attraction thing wrong. That's where a lot of people go wrong, is they are so focused on it. But when you're so focused on it, and that it becomes a need or a craving, or a
Mm.
something that's making you feel anxious, something that's making you feel stressed out, if what you're working on, and I'm guilty of this too with some things, it's probably why I've had, sometimes, it's hard to let go of the things that you really, 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 really want. But you have to let go of it. It's, because if you were able to, like, if you really, 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 really believed it, if you owned it, like this, I'm just moving forward no
Mm.
matter what,
You wouldn't need it anymore. Yeah.
you wouldn't need it.
Yeah.
It wouldn't matter when it's coming. If you truly believed in it, if you truly got that, I am manifesting this thing, doesn't matter how long. And it's almost like magic that, like, when you get to that place where you can let go of it, then that's going to, like, kind of set that energy free. And that's going to, you know, shift your whole vibration into a vibration that's far more attractive, far more attractive.
This just reminded me of neediness. You know, if you're needy and you ask a woman out, no, you know, it's not gonna happen. It's no. Um,
It's
so if you
unattractive.
it
Neediness
really
is
is. And so if you are
unattractive.
needy, at least pretend like you're not. But something else, and I don't know if we talked about it on here or not, or if this is just something, because I've had this thought before. Sometimes I don't remember if I've talked about it or if I just thought it. But it occurred to me the universe maybe works like a bank does. The more you need money, the less likely they are to give you money. You know,
Oh my
when
God,
you've
that's so true.
when you've got lots of money, oh, here, have another credit card, take a loan, have another loan. But if you need the money, forget it.
That is so true. That is absolutely true. Yeah. And well, and that's why the rich get richer and the poor get
Yeah,
poorer, because
right.
when you are in that state where, like, you need the money and you're coming from desperation, then you are at your least likely ability to be able to attract. No one wants to give you money when you need it.
Right, exactly. It's the weirdest thing. And something that I started doing was I carry money in my wallet all the time. I try to keep
Hmm.
$100 in there all the time, just so
Yeah.
I'm sending this out. And when I actually started saving money, investing money, and then also the thing was actually giving some to charity. Like now, every single
Yeah.
time I get paid from anything,
Yep.
immediately 5%. I swear it's made a difference.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm just noticing that, but it's almost like I'm going, I got plenty. I guess I'll just share some. And the universe is like, oh, you got a lot? Have some more.
Yes, there's a book, and I can't remember the full name of the author's name, Catherine something, and but it's kind of an older timey book. I like to read a lot of more like the older law of attraction books, and but she talks about how giving away the money is ultimately what attracts it back to you.
Mm,
And because ultimately it really is sending a message loud and clear to the universe, to your subconscious mind, even that like, wow, if you're giving away extra money, that means you have a surplus. That means you have an abundance. If you have enough money to give money away, then and it's like it kind of works. It what it sort of like puts you into the flow, and because it is a circular thing, giving and receiving is circular. You get, if you are giving but not receiving anything, that's one way that people block the flow of abundance. But the same thing holds true if you're just receiving and you're not letting go of any, then you're
yeah.
kind of creating a little bit of a jam up of that
Yeah.
energy, and you have to be in the flow of abundance. But getting back to like a couple other of these rich and famous successful people like Jim Carrey, I'm sure you've heard the
Oh yeah.
story about Jim
Mhm.
Carrey, how he well, actually, he had a story that even dates back before the whole writing the check to himself.
Mm,
And his parents said that they wouldn't be buying him a bicycle. So he would go into his room and draw pictures of this bike and just spend all the time just thinking about this bike and visualizing being with it. And one day, he came home from school and there was a brand new bike sitting in his front yard. So he had manifested his dream bicycle into existence. And then, of course, we all know that in 1985, he wrote himself a check for $10 million and dated it 10 years into the future. And he just envisioned himself being a millionaire and a successful actor. And 9 years later, he got that part of in Ace Ventura and Dumb and Dumber, and they that paid him over $10 million. So he definitely used law of attraction, knowingly or unknowingly. I mean, he had to have known some kind of thing, when writing this check. And so I think some people, like, just again, I think some people know that they're using it, and some people really, maybe they have more of an intuition about that there is some power to manifest things. And and it's what it comes down to, though, like, also, like, you hear this, 9 years, 9 years he wrote this check to himself, and he stuck with it. He stuck with it. And I'll be honest with you. Like, I wrote my this desire statement about my development, and how that's going to go. And even even saying this 21 days, I still don't completely buy into it 100% yet.
mm,
I've still am I'm still creating drama right now with, whether it's going to come out the right way, and all of that. It's like, well, what if I, yeah, what if I actually, and why is it so hard?
mm,
And I think that that's one of the things too, that so many people, they just expect it to just be like super easy, but
mm,
it's not always easy to keep yourself focused in the face of things that are going to create massive amounts of doubt. And I think that that's that makes the difference between somebody who manifests and goes after their dreams, and somebody who fails at the law of attraction is that they are willing to stand up for their belief in the face of all doubt. And that is something I just feel so convicted about, that you have to
Mm.
stand up for what you want. And if you just throw your desire statement, your affirmations, your visualization, your plan, your goals, your dreams out the window, and then you just say, oh, it's because the law of attraction doesn't work. No, the law of attraction works, but it's just not as easy as you thought that it was going to be. And that's really, that's really what I'm all about. I mean, it doesn't have to be hard either. Some things are easier to manifest than others. And the key I have found to what makes it easier is how badly you want it. So sometimes you
Mm.
want something super bad, and I
Mhm.
think the the badder, the more super baddest that you want it, um, you know, you're clinging to it. You're
Mm.
clinging to it. And you're not surrendering to it, and you think that this is the only way that it's going to show up. And it's the only way it's going to show up is through that person, or if I take this exact roadmap, to my goal. And then when that roadmap takes you on a detour and you say, oh, the road's shut down, it's not possible. That road is closed. And so my dreams aren't possible. And when you get to that, and it's what you do when you get to that roadblock. Are you going to find a detour? Are you going to take the detour, or are you going to just turn around and go back home?
Yeah. It's funny because I can't remember what I was talking about with a friend. It was something that gosh, I wish I could remember what it was, but maybe it was just a lot of bookings this year. And he said, wow, congratulations. Like, good for you for, jumping out there, when you did, because I quit my full-time gig and jumped into it. And I was like, well, yeah, but you know what? It wasn't as easy as that. It was freaking tough, man. This last decade has been a challenge, and but like you said, I mean, you just persevere and you just keep going. And I mean, it's almost like you can't fail if you just keep going.
Exactly. But if you keep going, but you keep, like, you're tentative, and you say, just not really sure if this hypnosis thing's going to work out for me or not.
Mm.
And you keep saying that, and well, maybe I need to look into getting a real job, or maybe
Mm.
whatever, if those are the thoughts that are going to continue it's those thoughts that are going to prevent you from making that reality for you. And, the more we can just, like, kind of, yeah. So I was going to say, like, it's the subtle, it's like the subtle things that, those coincidences that happen. That's because we were in, like, such a subtle state. Like, we just sort of
Mm.
subtly, like, uttered somebody's name. And then the next thing you know, it's like, oh, I like, did I tell you that, about the Mandy Morris story, on,
No.
or Sarah Prout?
Oh, yes, you did actually. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Them
Yeah.
reaching out to you. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and it was just so subtle because I just, like, I didn't need it to happen. It wasn't anything that I had any attachment about or anything. And, but it was just something subtle that happened, and boom, somehow my energy magnetized those people to want to be on my podcast without any, like, that's kind of the woo-woo unexplainable stuff that I don't even, like, teach people to do. Maybe
Yeah.
I'd like to get to a point, because I do, there is this whole notion that I have started to pick up on, started to notice, is that subtle art, the more subtle our thoughts are about it. And, like, this whole idea of being able to detach and surrender, and kind of let it go and not need it. Like, again, it's like when when the bank senses that you need money,
I
it's
get
it's
it.
harder to get. It's harder to get.
Yeah, I see that. It's funny because I do remember having those thoughts. So maybe that's what took longer, is because I was constantly having thoughts like I should just quit. You should just give up, quit. It's too hard. It's just too difficult. And so maybe it took longer because of that.
Yeah, definitely. And well, I mean, it took a little while for me to get my business up and running and off the ground. When I first started back, I kind of had no choice. So it was like I was really, in a way, like naive. Like I really felt like I burnt the bridges because I decided not to go to college. So that's number one. I burnt that bridge. Like
Mhm.
any job worth going to college, except for somehow I magically was able to get a job as a stockbroker, which
Mhm.
totally required having a college degree. So
Mm.
that was something that I manifested.
Mhm.
but but then having, there was no way I was going to be able to settle for doing some type of menial work that didn't require a college degree. So when I quit
Me too.
that job,
Yeah. You're stuck. Like
I'm like,
I got to do something else big.
I,
Yeah.
I've got to make it big. Like there's
Yeah.
no, when you quit that job and you're out of it for like a year, it's not like I could just waltz back in there a year later and say, hey, I'm ready to be a stockbroker again. No, you burn
Yeah.
that bridge because you have to constantly be in the process of training yourself. And you'd have to take that series 7 all over again. And that is not an easy test to pass. And so, I mean, I could not go, I could not after it was either 1 or 2 years my broker's license would expire. And so
Mm.
I burnt that bridge. And when you burn those bridges, it's like, and there's a story about that in Think and Grow Rich about burning the boats
Yeah.
and ultimately, not being able to turn back. That does something. Just leaving yourself
Yeah.
no way out. But it took about a year and a half for me to like kind of like let go of some of my old outdated beliefs about just how to manifest the business that I needed. And um just to kind of feel like I could do this. Like I could run my own business. I mean,
Mhm.
that was, there
Yeah.
was just yeah, I had to, get to a place where I could actually believe that.
I like that. I couldn't, I don't know that I burned bridges necessarily, but there was, I mean, even when I would say, well, I should just give up. I'm like, well, what else are you going to do? I couldn't even imagine, like you said, going to one of these menial jobs or something, or because I didn't finish college either. And I mean, going back and having somebody else tell me what to do all day, or just, just the thought of it just gives me, ugh, ugh.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. I can't, even like when I when I did work in the working world and I was like I had all these before I was a stockbroker and I was an administrative assistant. And like the whole reason I couldn't even be an administrative assistant anymore is like I just couldn't stand to be told what to do.
Exactly.
Like I was really good at my job, but and it's like, and I would anticipate the people's needs that I work for. It's like, but it's like, so I had a really high work ethic. But it was just like whenever they would try to tell me what to do or the order in which I would do it, it was like, no, this isn't, this, I will do it, just anyway, it's just I think some people are just born to work for themselves.
Yeah, I think so.
So, just to put out another person who used law of attraction knowingly or unknowingly before she became very wealthy was Lady Gaga.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I don't know much about her origin story.
Yeah. So and I don't know too much about her whole origin story, but she talks about using the power of affirmations to, to make her, to bring her stardom to reality. And, she would say things like, music is my life. The
Hmm.
fame is inside of me. I'm going to make a #1 record with #1 hits. And, and she said to herself, that first these, these affirmations felt like she was lying to herself, but she just
Mhm.
eventually, if you just keep pounding something into your head enough,
Yeah.
eventually, now that's with affirmations, as you and I both know, if you can get there much quicker using
Right.
hypnosis. You don't have to pound those things into your head. And I also kind of believe that you have to do affirmations in stages. You can't, I think that you want to, give yourself lighter affirmations at first, and give yourself affirmations that affirm things that you can actually believe in. And then, but that's not necessarily always the case, because as some of these people who used affirmations, not everybody uses affirmations the Victoria Gallagher correct way, and they still get results. So just because I have, I think that it's important, and I think you're going to get there a little quicker if you use affirmations that you can actually believe in.
Mhm.
But some people, they will say them long enough and determinate enough, to where they will get themselves to believe them, because eventually, I mean, anything that seem it, people believe things all the time that aren't true. And
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And I
it
think, also this is another example of, like when you talk about we're all using we're all using the law of attraction, whether it's intentionally or not. It's the same with affirmations. Like most of us are giving ourselves some kind of affirmations, I'm stupid, I'm dumb, I can't do it, So why not turn it around and give yourself some positive ones?
It's so true. I can't tell you how many times I correct people. I don't, do you find
Hmm.
yourself doing this? Like,
Oh
don't
yeah.
say that to yourself.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
how many times, I've heard people say, "Oh, I'm such an idiot,"
Oh
or
yeah.
"I'm
Yeah.
so stupid." Well, when you say
Yeah.
things like that, guess what? I mean, that's the subconscious mind doesn't know whether you're joking or whether you're saying, the truth, giving it a command.
Yeah.
And especially if you say it in a very heated moment, or you're like in a state of shock, or if you're in any kind of an altered state,
Yeah.
that is going to go much, that's going to be accepted by the subconscious much more powerfully than if you just sort of casually said something. And so I don't like to joke around when it comes to saying things like that to yourself, because it's all an affirmation. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter whether it's a positive affirmation or a negative affirmation. You don't want to only want to give yourself affirmations that you want to believe are true.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But yeah, so kind of getting back to the original question, I mean, did rich people use the law of attraction, to get to where they are? I absolutely believe that, most of them do. They just did it unknowingly, and some people did, do it knowingly. But at any point, you can decide. And like, you can let go. Like, so many people like let go, so many people have these limiting beliefs about things that these actors, these rich people, kind of decided to let go of those beliefs and believe something different. And like, if you believe something about yourself with regard to your ability to earn, or you believe age has something to do with it, or your upbringing has something to do with it, or your education has something to do with it, or how many books you've read has something to do with it, or probably one of the biggest limiting beliefs has to do with what you have been able to accomplish up to this
Sure.
point.
Yeah.
To me, that creates the biggest limiting belief of all, because that experience, that generates that can generate your reality, or you can choose to have something else generate your reality. So it's all about like what you tell yourself. And if you stick with something long enough, and you will, you will bust through that, and you will be able to manifest wealth, health, love, abundance in all areas of your life.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good
So, well,
stuff.
thank you for that question. I think that's a great question. And I just want to also put it out to the audience that if you have questions about the law of attraction or manifesting that we haven't covered in the Power of Your Mind podcast, I am always happy to get your questions, your comments, anything that you have to say that'll kind of help guide us toward helping you to know how to apply this that much better. There's just so much more to this that meets the eye, and so much about it. To me, it's not even so much that people, I mean, it's not even so much there's still a lot to learn about the law of attraction, but so much more about it. It's just you applying it, you deciding, you making the decision and committing to follow your dreams, and immersing yourself and not letting anything get in your way or dictate who you're going to be and what you're going to have and how you're going to live your life. You get to choose that. We all get to choose that. And so I want to help you in any way I can to choose that for yourself. So I want to thank you all for listening to the Power of Your Mind podcast. And thank you, Jim, for being a great co-host.
Thank you, Victoria.
And asking great questions. And we will see you next week. So thank you so much for listening.